As a fan base, do you feel better or worse about Tennessee following the Georgia game?
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Tuesday morning Locked On Vols. We got a loaded show coming up today, so buckle up. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk about if we should be feeling better or worse about Tennessee following the Georgia game, right? I mean, that game was, I think Georgia's a good football team, seeing what Tennessee accomplished, also seeing what Tennessee didn't accomplish, seeing some of the shortcomings on the defensive side of the football, seeing the second quarter lull. Do you feel better or worse about Tennessee following the Georgia game, moving on throughout the rest of the season? That's coming up here at the top of the show. David Sanders, Josh Heupel gave an injury update on him, Jackson Moy, Davin Hobbs, some of the other ones. That's coming up in segment number 2. And then, of course, you everydayers. I'll answer your mailbag questions coming up in segment number 3. I'm your host, Eric Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town. Appreciate you guys making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. All right, so do you feel better or worse about Tennessee following the Georgia win? The Georgia loss, excuse me. Or the Georgia win over Tennessee. See, I was right. I think this is an easy answer, and I think the answer is clearly you feel better about Tennessee, and kind of here's where I'm at. And I recognize, again, that Tennessee's defense really needs to tighten some things up. More than anything, I recognize that Tennessee's defense needs to get healthy. But end of the day, I think Georgia's going to go on to be one of the better football teams in the country, in my opinion. I think that defense is going to round into form. Kirby Smart's defense always do. Remember, Kirby Smart's defense gave up a lot of points to Alabama last year. Still ended up being a pretty daggone good defense, right? I clearly think Gunnar Stockton's a better quarterback than I thought he was, and I thought the offense was going to be fine. I thought they were going to run the football better than they did a season ago. So we'll check back in on Georgia, obviously, in a couple of weeks and see kind of where they are in the heart of SEC play. But I do think Georgia is one of the best teams in the country. I do think that at current standing, Georgia is one of clearly the best teams in the Southeastern Conference. And I think Georgia is going to be the best team as it stands right now that Tennessee plays all season long. Oklahoma might have something to say about that later on in Neyland Stadium in November. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that the Alabama road trips or the swamp for Florida road trips are going to be easy. And I know Florida right now, I get it, but it's never easy to play down there if you're at Tennessee. But I think Georgia is the best team Tennessee's going to play all year. And seeing what Tennessee did against Georgia, specifically offensively, 41 points, seeing a quarterback and Joey Aguilar that was not on the roster in spring practice, got here mid-May, learned the offense, won over his teammates, had to go out and win the job in fall camp, and then seeing what he did in game 1 against Syracuse, that was great. Seeing what he did against ETSU, whatever. There's no takeaways in a game like that with ETSU, just like there's not going to be many takeaways in a game like UAB coming up this weekend. But seeing what he did against a Kirby Smart coach defense, I was super impressive. I clearly feel better about Tennessee's offense right now than I did, before the season. I thought Joey Aguilar would be fine. I did not think Joey Aguilar would be this impressive. And it's a long season, I get that, and we can't ignore some of the throws that he made that were just kind of silly and how the offense got out of sync there in the second quarter. But it feels like that's kind of typical of a Josh Heupel coach offense in points in times. Like they always kind of go through that third quarter lulls or that second quarter lull. Remember last year Tennessee was not a first half football team offensively, clearly getting shut out in 3 games in the first half last season. So, but what Joey Aguilar has given Tennessee, boy, it's been super impressive. I mean, he's one of the SEC leaders in touchdowns, one of the SEC leaders in passing yards. And again, you don't have to just take it with a grain of salt because it's Syracuse and ETSU. Georgia's in that mix now. I mean, he almost threw for 400 yards against Georgia. He scored 5 total touchdowns against the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm not trying to sit here and anoint Georgia the 85 Bears, but again, that shows me something, right? That tells me something. And so I've been super impressed with that aspect of it. I know Tennessee struggled to run the football against Georgia, but I think Tennessee's going to be a good running football team. I've been super impressed with the offensive line so far, and that doesn't even have David Sanders a part of the mix, who we'll get into in segment number 2. So knowing that your offense, and I talked about this with Boogie Bentley on his Monday show, knowing that your offense pretty much any Saturday out there is going to give you a chance to win the game, I feel so much better about Tennessee now, despite the loss, than I did entering Georgia, because entering Georgia, that game, there was just too many unknowns. How was Tennessee's running backs going to fare? How was Tennessee's offensive line going to fare? How was Joey Aguilar going to fare against a defense like Kirby Smart coach defense? And so, I again, despite the loss, and we talked about the loss on the post-game pod, we talked about the loss on Monday's show, Tennessee had every chance in the world to win this football game, and Tennessee didn't. That's the frustrating part, right? Tennessee could have won this game 4 times, and Tennessee failed to do that. But despite the loss, I'm not talking moral victories here, guys. Again, as Josh Heupel said Monday, this program's past moral victories. They're not in the business of moral victories. I'm not talking moral victories, but despite the loss, I feel so much better about Tennessee than I did going into that game against Georgia. Defensively, again, I'm still a big-time fan of Tennessee's defensive line. You got 3 sacks against Georgia. That is 2 more than Tennessee's had the last 3 matchups. I thought the Leos had a phenomenal game. I thought the strong side defensive ends with Weathersby and West played pretty good football. They need to play more interior defensive linemen. We know that. Hopefully we'll get Tennessee will get Hobbs back and Boy back soon. More on that in segment number 2. But Dominic Bailey and Bryson Easons, though they played way too many snaps, man, I thought that they were super productive. They were just tired in the end. I'm fine with Tennessee's defensive line. Linebackers, I was high on Tennessee's linebackers coming into this thing, right, this season. And so far, they had some moments against Syracuse, but Tennessee's linebackers have not played as well as I thought that they would to this point. Again, only 3 games in. Long way to go. I thought that Tennessee would play Jordan Burns some. I thought Tennessee would play Jaden Harmon some. Of course, going along with your starters, Arion Carter, Jeremiah Thielander, and, of course, Edwin Spillman, who was going to play a ton. I like that group. I think that they're much better than what we saw against Georgia, but I wouldn't say that the linebackers have lived up to my preseason expectations to this point. Corner, what are you going to do, right? Tennessee's doing the best it can, and I love the options of Colton Hood and Ty Redmond. I know Georgia picked on the true freshman. He's going to be better for it, but Ty Redmond's going to be a very good player. Colton Hood is a good player. Safeties, you end the season with some limitations there, and I think you're still kind of there. I wouldn't say the star positions particularly played too well to begin the year. I think Jalen McMurray played really good against Syracuse. I don't think Boo Carter's had the strongest start to his season at the star position. So defensively, was this defense, we kept talking about defense, going into the Syracuse game specifically, defense. Like, we know what Tennessee got defensively. You still do. Like the foundation of that defense still there. This is not a bad defense. But is it going to be statistically comparable to that of 2024? I don't think so in some regards, because I do think because of the injuries, specifically defensive tackle and a corner, there's going to be a little bit more boom and bust in that defense, whereas last year that wasn't the case. You might give up some points. You might give up some touchdowns, but can you force some turnovers? Joshua Joseph strip sack at the end of the game that should have resulted in a touchdown. Colton Hood, Nathan Robinson scoop and score against Syracuse. Tennessee's getting turnovers. That's good. Tennessee's applying pressure. That is good. Tennessee's got to be better blitzers from the second, third layer. That's something Tennessee was ineffective on against Georgia. Not very good blitzing with the linebackers or the defensive backs. But I do think there's going to be some bend but not break. I mean, there was a point in time, there was a stretch in that football game where Tennessee's defense played pretty well. Following the 14-play opening drive of the second half where Georgia marched down the field 75 yards on 13 run plays to score a touchdown, Tennessee's defense went punt, field goal on a short field when Joey Aguilar threw that interception when Braylon Staley fell down, field goal on a short field goal when they drove the length of the field, had first and goal from the 6, held them to a field goal, had a fumble, and then the last possession, defensive possession of the second half of regulation, they gave up a touchdown. So obviously 2 touchdowns given up in the second half. They gave up 6 more points with those field goals, but I thought the defense played some pretty good ball there in the second half, and certainly allowed Tennessee to come back and play catch-up at points and times. So I say all this to say, look at the schedule. Of course, for Tennessee, I think I've got it over here. Yeah, here's the schedule. Look at the schedule here. If you're watching on YouTube, Syracuse is already done. East Tennessee State's already done. Georgia's already done. You got UAB at home coming up this weekend. On the road to Mississippi State, that is not a gimme, obviously, because Mississippi State's much improved with a healthy quarterback. Got the open date. Arkansas at home. On the road at Alabama, tremendous challenge. At Kentucky, Oklahoma at home, tremendous challenge. Open date. Then you got New Mexico State at Florida, tremendous challenge. And then Vanderbilt at home, which is certainly not a gimme. But seeing what Tennessee did offensively against Georgia, knowing that Tennessee's quarterback, Joey Aguilar, as long as he's healthy, is going to be able to keep Tennessee in games with explosive plays and really crafty work when he's facing pressure and all that. And Tennessee's offensive line, the way that it's blocked so far. And Again, I said this after the Syracuse game, and I'm going to say it again. I think this defense is going to be okay. All right, I do think this defense is going to be okay, but I recognize the frustrations. I recognize the lack thereof of production in the games against Georgia. But Georgia's not on the schedule anymore. Moving on, I think this defense is going to be okay. So my answer to my own question here was, yes, I feel a lot better about Tennessee despite the loss to Georgia. What say you? Do you feel better or worse about Tennessee despite the loss to Georgia than you did before the football game started? We'd love to hear from you at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. What did Josh Heupel have to say about David Sanders' injury? That is coming up next. We continue on here this Tuesday, Locked On Vols. This episode is brought to you in part by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. Download the PrizePick app today. Use that promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 in lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. Hey guys and gals, welcome back to your Tuesday morning Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. Mailbag questions coming up in segment number 3 of the show from you everydayers. Really do appreciate you guys for chiming in each and every single week on the social media accounts, on my personal account, at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. Hey, the Mississippi State game time has been announced. It's going to be a 4:15 kickoff Eastern time, 3:15 local, and looking forward to not having that game be at night. That is really awesome in my opinion, right? Because I'm going to cover that game. Nothing worse than being on the road for a night game that really just puts you behind the 8 ball for the rest of the weekend. So excited about that. All right, so will Tennessee have David Sanders back for that football game? Will Tennessee have David Sanders for this week's football game against UAB? Josh Heupel was asked about an update on Tennessee's 5-star true freshman offensive tackle David Sanders, who is yet to play. And here's, I kind of combined all the answers about David Sanders from Josh Heupel on a Monday press conference.
Yeah, mentally, I think anytime anybody in this game gets injured and isn't cleared to play, it's a tough battle mentally. You grow, you compete, you strain to get yourself prepared to go play, and he has certainly done that. And unique injury that, doctors are uncertain. That's why he's kind of been day-to-day for a while here, and uncertain, it's not like a sprained ankle. And I say that meaning there's not a definitive timeline, and so he's been having to fight through that. Guy wants to be out there. It hurts him badly. Our football team, guys in his position room can see that. But he's been a good teammate too, and I think as a young guy, staying the course through something that's a little bit unknown is hard. He's done a good job with it. Just got to continue to do that, and hopefully our doctors clear him here at some point relatively quickly. It is. That's why he's been day to day. He's not, I'm going to say, in control of it. Our medical staff is doing everything that they can. It's a little bit of an unknown time frame. You could wake up tomorrow and be ready to go, and obviously he's had some time, some healing, and we hope that happens before we get to Saturday. And our medical staff always handles. Guys are okay to play, in this game. After day one in pads, nobody's feeling 100%, right? But it always goes through our medical staff, and they handle those decisions.
That was Josh Heupel on David Sanders. And I got to say, the last couple of weeks, Josh Heupel has been more forthcoming about injuries than he has in his 4+ years of being the head coach here at Tennessee. It's been very interesting. But again, I think this is, everybody's got theories and conspiracies and all that, and we're never going to know exactly what the blueprint is on an injury, because this is not the National Football League, and you're not required to give us all that. I know there's an injury report, but there's really nothing that goes on that injury report outside of a designation of questionable, doubtful, probable, whatever. Josh Heupel and his staff keep these things very, very close, okay? But clearly this is a deal where he suffered that injury, shoulder injury, upper body type deal, late in the week of week 1 and was unable to go. And then you thought it was going to be a game time decision the next week and the next week. But something, in the rehab or trying to get back, it's one of those unique deals, kind of like what he said. And this is not, I know a lot of fans want to say, wow, he's just not playing, right? He's just not playing. We saw this. Agents tell him not to play. That is not what's happening right here. That is not what's happening right here. Josh Heupel said several times over the last week when we've asked him, it's a medical team deal. It's a medical team deal. So clearly he said that, it could be any day now. He can wake up tomorrow, be ready to go. It might be next week. I don't know. It's frustrating. I get it. But, that's kind of all we have right now. And I will say this. You want David Sanders out there because I think David Sanders makes the offensive line have the best 5. But for the most part, Tennessee's offensive line's just fine, right? I understand there were some pressures and stuff. And one of those blocks on the final drive, maybe if you hold it a little longer, you get that first down, it could be game over, right? But nonetheless, I think Tennessee had nearly 500 yards total offense against Georgia. I think the offensive line's doing just fine. So, sure, you need him out there, you want him out there, but, it's not one of those where you're just getting drilled up front, and it's like, oh, my gosh, we have to have him. So, the urgency from the fan base, in my opinion, is not necessarily where it could be. So that's David Sanders. What about Jermod McCoy? What about Jackson Moy and David Hobbs? Josh Heupel starts off by addressing Jermod McCoy, kind of where he's at, and then getting to the defensive tackles up front with Hobbs and Moy.
I don't know the timeline on Jermod, and I say that meaning he's gotten started, back out on the field, how his body responds, and also being ready to go play and compete are all things that he's got to continue to prepare for. He wants to be out there. He's been a great teammate. He's done a really good job in his rehab too, and so has our medical team. So it's all about how we can get him being prepared to actually go out there and play. Yeah, Moy day to day. Hobbs continues to do a really good job in his rehab. How fast that progresses here, I can't give you an answer today, but he's done a really good job. Hopefully, we'll have him back soon too.
Feels like Moy's close, right? Moy day to day, as Josh Heupel just pointed out. I thought it was going to be a game time decision. Why can't I say decision? There we go, decision against Georgia. We'll see if he plays against UAB. McCoy, I don't know, man. Like a lot of people are saying, do you expect McCoy to play at all this year? I do, because I think he's a competitor. I think if he's cleared, ready to go, I think he's going to play because he's a competitor and this means something to him. I do understand that agents are involved and he's a potential first-round draft pick before the injury. He was a first-round draft pick before the injury, still could be. I understand there's some extra things in there, but I think that he's got that competitive nature inside of him that he's going to want to come out and play. Is that next week? No, I don't think so. Is that 2 weeks from now? I don't know. Is it after the bye week of Mississippi State? Maybe for Arkansas. I don't know. We will see, but the guy tore his ACL in early January, and so or late December, whatever it was. So it was one of those things where it's like, man, you're going to miss some time anyway. Just a matter of kind of when, and there's a difference in being out there in practice. Number one, is he facing contact? I don't know. He was out there doing some indie stuff, when we were out there in fall camp. So there's a difference in the level of what you're doing in practice. And then David Hobbs, I feel like David Hobbs is still a couple weeks away, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to play against UAB. I think Mississippi State could be a time that he is back, and that would be a good thing because obviously Tennessee needs some help in the interior. So we'll see about Mississippi State. If you're not Mississippi State, you do get an extra week with the bye week. I would fully expect, in my opinion, for him to be back against Arkansas. So that's the latest on Tennessee's injury situation. Obviously, that is a big factor for Tennessee, specifically on the defensive side of the football right now, as Tennessee is really, really needing some depth and some players so they're not playing so many different guys, 90-plus snaps or whatever it is. All right, when we come back, answer your mailbag questions. That's coming up next right here. All more on your Tuesday Locked On Vols. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more than a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to secure last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pull up the Gametime app, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. that is pretty impressive. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, put in the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, guys, we welcome you back into a Tuesday morning Locked On Vols, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it. We'll hit some mailbag questions. I got a lot this week. I'm not going to hit them all. I do apologize, but I'll hit as many as I can. Paulie chimes in, where's Ethan Davis? Really expected him to take a huge jump this year. Seems like he always has the right answers in press conferences, but fails to translate on the game field. Ethan Davis, yeah, he's off to a rough start to the season, been penalized a couple different times. They've tried to get him the football. I don't think he has a reception yet, maybe one, but they've tried to get it to him a couple times. It's been kind of rough. I will say this, man, I'm so impressed with his willingness to go in there and block in the physicality game, because that was the question about him years ago. Will he ever grow in the physicality aspect of the game to play tight end in this offense, whereas he was playing pretty much wide receiver in college or in high school? He's gotten that, man. He is a willing blocker, and he's made some really good blocks so far this season. But we'll see if that continues to shape up. But he's penalties, not getting the ball in terms of the passing game. That's been, I assume, pretty frustrating for him. Let's see here. We'll go to VolDog428. Great coverage from you and the team. My question is transparency on injuries. I saw both Sanders and Jackson Moy pregame jumping around looking good to go. I heard Sanders has a tricep soreness issue. Are agents playing a role? Okay, I just kind of discussed that. Why so secretive? That's kind of what Josh Heupel is, man. Trevor, being 1/4 of the way into the season, what should our expectations with this team be? Expectations win every game left on the schedule? I don't know, because, again, you have road trips to Alabama and Florida where historically you just have not played well. You can win every single game on the schedule left. I still think Tennessee, 9-10 win team. I do. I'm not going to say Tennessee should automatic 10 win team, because that would mean taking care of everybody else, including Oklahoma at home, and splitting either Alabama or Florida on the road. Again, I know Florida doesn't feel like a very good football team right now, but, again, it's in the swamp. Anything can happen, right? I think the expectations to still be this team is contending and trying to beat down that door of a college football playoff spot. For sure. But, man, I've been really, really impressed specifically with Joey Aguilar on the offense so far here to begin this season. Jared said the biggest what if Jermod McCoy is healthy and plays, Tennessee wins, right? I don't know. It's hard to play shoulda, coulda, woulda, but, if either Jermod McCoy or Ricky Gibson were healthy and played in that football game, it's one of those fourth down converted on. I don't know. I like to think not, but I don't know. Jared said, also, we ran the ball okay-ish, but I can't understand why we couldn't run the ball at will against them. Was it because of the loaded box, better D-line, or something else? Encouraged and optimistic. There we go. Jared is encouraged and optimistic, kind of like what we talked about in segment 1. Tennessee, outside of last year, 2024, has not been able to run on Georgia at all. Tennessee finally broke through, ran for like 150 yards against Georgia. That was the most by a significant margin that Tennessee has tallied against Georgia. I think Tennessee finished with like 130, maybe 128 yards on the ground, and a lot of that's thanks to the 27-yard pop by Star Thomas in the fourth quarter. Georgia's good sideline to sideline. Georgia's good athletic. They're big up front, not Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis's, but again, those linebackers are good. C.J. Allen's a good player. Chris Cole's a good player. Raylan Wilson is a very good player. K.J. Bolden coming down from the safety spot is a good player. Georgia has recruited very, very well the last couple of years, so it's a hard team to run on, and Kirby Smart always makes great in-game adjustments and throws a lot of different things at them. Let's go to Grant. Any thoughts on the end-of-the-season record based on what you've seen so far? Yeah, just kind of based on what you've seen in the SEC so far. Interesting, because, again, the SEC as a whole, I have no clue about, man. South Carolina, not good, overrated. LSU has been looking not very good at all to begin the season, as well as Garrett Nussmeier. Texas with Arch Manning, not looked very good. Does Ole Miss have a defense? Alabama has responded well, playing nobodies, or they just played Wisconsin. But what does Alabama look like after that loss to Florida State? Tennessee, of course, we know. Missouri's look good. Some other Vanderbilt's look good. record-wise, again, I'll kind of stay where I'm at. I feel like I want to see more, but I do think the SEC is wide open. I think the SEC is wide open for sure, more so than any of the years that I can remember here in recent memory. Kurt says, should UT move checker kneeling games to the UK and South Carolina type games instead of the UGA, Bama, Florida games almost every time? We're not playing home games in front of 85,000 anymore. It's tough to see the greatest visual in college football get ruined more times with a loss. I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying for sure because Tennessee loses those games, but like checker kneeling to me is like big-time games, right? Big-time games, like trying to get some juice. Anytime you see checker kneeling, it's cool. But I don't know. I think it's just a really cool spectacle. Anything you can get extra juice for, I'm all about. But I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. But I in my mind, I think it'd be weird if like Tennessee checkers kneeling for Kentucky. But that's just my opinion. Kobe, after Georgia's first play on offense, why did we leave freshman Redmond one-on-one with a receiver on fourth down near the end of the fourth quarter? He's your best option. He made a couple of plays in that game too. I mean, he took his lumps for sure. We kind of predicted it coming in. If you're Mike Bobo, you're going right after him. That's what they did. He's clearly Tennessee's best option at cornerback right now. I would have rotated Jalen McMurray in to spell him and to spell Colton Hood because they both played over 90 snaps. But, I mean, end of the day, you got to play who you got out there, and he's your best option. And he's going to be a good player, but obviously they made it a point to target him for sure. Let's not forget, too, that 2-point conversion, they went after Colton Hood. It's nice play design there with the motion. There was not a communication switch off there with the safety and Idris Farouk, and they got that 2-point conversion to tie the game. Ben, do you think this loss propels this team into better success? Proven teams often have to battle scars and heartbreaks. Would you trade a win against Georgia for losses to the other two? So first part of the question, do I think that this could prolong them into better success? Yeah, it's all about how they respond for sure. And I think they're going to respond the right way. And I do agree with you. Oftentimes teams are, battle tested early on. Georgia last year. Also, would you trade a win against Georgia for losses to the other two? That's interesting. If you beat Georgia, you should win 2 of those 3 games, in my opinion. Had beat Georgia in 8 years, now 9 years. I don't know. As a kid that grew up going to Tennessee football games, I don't ever want to see Tennessee lose to Alabama or Florida. So that one's tough. I would probably not, but I see where you're going with that. Robo22, got a couple more I'll get to. Which one is worse, Eric? Getting boat raced at home by a team you have not beaten or been competitive against in the last 8 years, or having the game won a couple of times and can't finish it only to lose an OT? This one stings, buddy. It really stings. And I completely agree with you, man. Like, for me, it's being right there. The game was for the taking 4 or 5 different times, and you screwed it up. Like, to me, the easy answer is it stings worse because you should have won this football game. It's a really good question, man. It's a really, really good question. But I think it's the latter. You should have won this football game. The Vols have one of the most impressive campuses in America and easily the best college football atmosphere in America, with football program trending hard in the right direction. Makes good sense to me. I'd be a Vol. Okay, sorry, I just bookmarked this. This was clearly not one from my mailbag show. That was a reply to like some recruit tweet. Jake says, love the podcast. What is going on with David Sanders? Okay, we talked about that. And I've got one more. We'll end here from Darius. I'll be in town for the Arkansas game. Unfortunately, can't make it into the game, but was wondering all things I need to do while in Knoxville that weekend, and also any suggestions on where to watch the game. Love the show. Keep up the great work. Thanks so much, man. Watch the game. There's tons of places. I think Yeehaw down in the Happy Holler was a great place. Old City Sports Bar is a great place. Fieldhouse Social used to be a great place. Market Square's got a lot of places. Tommy Trent's. There's a ton of great places around. I think Yeehaw is probably, that big screen TV is probably a really, really good spot for you. Just a couple of suggestions. Things to do. Yeah, go visit all those places I just mentioned. Taking some high school football on a Friday night. There should be some good games in the area. Market Square, again, is phenomenal. Calhoun's on the river. If you can't go to the game, I guess you can't really see the atmosphere, the tailgating and all that for the ball walk. But I would just take in a lot of the eats around town. Go up, see the mountains. It's a beautiful place, man. I love Tennessee. I love East Tennessee in general, but I love East Tennessee specifically in the fall as well. Darius, hope you enjoy your time in. Hit me up closer to game time, and I'll maybe find a football game for you to go watch. That is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Thanks so much for being here. Let's come back tomorrow. We'll continue to move forward. Tennessee and UAB. We'll talk about some early season progress reports and so much more. Josh Ward also on tomorrow's show. This is Locked On Vols.